Insight Quarterly Magazine Issue 27 January 2023. Compiled and edited by Justin Phillips and Guru Sangamish. Transcribed and printed by Mitra Jyothi in collaboration with Radio Udon. Subscription ₹100/yearly. Mitra Jyothi Digital Library. Mitra Jyothi. CA Site No. P22. 31st Main. 18th Cross. HSR Layout. Sector 1. Behind Nift College. Bangalore 560102. Phone 080-2258762 Email mj.tlibrary@gmail.com. Website www.mitrajyothi.org. Copyright notice. This book is reproduced in accessible format for people with bona fide print disabilities by Mitra Jyothi. CA Site No. P22. 18th Cross. 31 St. Main. Sector 1. HSR Layout. Behind Nift College. Bengaluru. 560102. Phone no. 2258762 Country code. +91 Bengaluru code. 080. Email mj.tlibrary@gmail.com. Website www.mitrajyothi.org. This book is created for distribution for the print disabled only and in accordance with the Marrakesh Treaty ratified by India on July 24, 2014 and Section 52(1) ZB of the Copyright Act, 1957. This accessible format production of the original publication is permitted to be used only by persons with print disabilities. Any further reproduction, distribution to any person without a print disability or any commercial use of this book is strictly prohibited and will be subject to legal action. Content 1. Editorial 2. News from around and about 3. Gifts we received on Louis Braille's birthday 4. Breaking stereotypes at India's first inclusive fest for persons with disabilities 5. Discovering inner peace and balance with Vipassana meditation 6. A long way 7. In memoriam Richard Douglas Fosbury 8. Cinquain 9. A frightening earthquake 10. MJ News January 2023 11. News from Radio Udon 12. Recip 1. Editorial. Dear readers, after the upheaval of the last few years, the start of this new year is the perfect opportunity for reset, reflection and reconnecting. One aspect that often gets overlooked is the importance of reconnecting with those we may have lost touch with. The past year has been challenging, and many of us have been isolated from our loved ones, friends, and colleagues. The pandemic has caused many to feel disconnected and lonely, and as we head into a new year, it's essential to prioritize reconnecting with those we care about. In a world that's increasingly digital, it's easy to forget the importance of face-to-face interactions. While technology has enabled us to stay connected in some ways, it's not a substitute for the real thing. It's easy to become complacent and rely on social media or messaging apps to maintain our relationships. But true connection comes from spending time together, sharing experiences, and being present with one another. Reconnecting with those we care about can take many forms. It could be as simple as reaching out to an old friend to catch up over the phone, or sitting for a cup of coffee with a colleague we haven't seen in a while. It could also mean making an effort to attend social events or volunteering in our communities, where we can meet new people and build new connections. As we head into a new year, let's reconnect with those we care about. Let's make an effort to be present, to listen, and to share experiences with new connections too. This edition has articles about our community, meditation, poetry, and many other topics. Enjoy them at your own pace. If you would like to contribute articles, please feel free to do so. And finally, may all your New Year's resolutions be within reach. With gratitude, Justin Phillips, Editor. 2. News from around and about. Relativity Space has a successful failure with the debut of Terran 1. Today is a huge win, with many historic firsts. The shiny white Terran 1 rocket launched on its third attempt Wednesday night 22 ND March 2023, lifting off from Florida's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The test flight was classed as a successful failure as Terran 1 fell short of reaching orbit but launched flawlessly and made it through Max Q, the most dangerous and turbulent point of its ascent. The small, methane-fueled rocket then produced some stunning views as a bluish-green flame powered it toward space against the blackness of night. The first stage, with 9 engines, appeared to perform nominally as it rose smoothly through the atmosphere, firing for more than 2 minutes. Then the rocket's second stage successfully separated. After this, something happened. From the video on board the rocket, it appeared the second stage engine attempted to ignite but could not sustain this ignition. So far, the company has not stated precisely what went wrong, be it a problem with one of the propellant pumps, injectors, or igniter system. Regardless, the second stage, which carried no payload due to the experimental nature of the test flight, fell back into the Atlantic Ocean. Following the flight, Relativity posted a statement on Twitter characterizing the mission as a success due to the rocket's passage through the area of maximum dynamic pressure during its flight profile. Today's launch proved Relativity's 3D printed rocket technologies that will enable our next vehicle, Terran R. The company stated, "We successfully made it through Mach Q, the highest stress state on our printed structures. This is the biggest proof point for our novel additive manufacturing approach. Today is a huge win, with many historic firsts. We also progressed through main engine cutoff and stage separation. We will assess flight data and provide public updates over the coming days." It is proper to characterize Wednesday's launch as a success. Of the new era of commercially developed small launch vehicles, the Terran 1 rocket made it further on its debut flight than Astra, Virgin Orbit, Firefly, and ABL Space Systems. Only Rocket Lab, with the debut of its smaller Electron rocket in 2017, had a more successful initial flight. In producing a rocket with about 85% additively manufactured material, Relativity has flown with a substantially new manufacturing process. The extent to which Wednesday's launch validated the additively manufactured structure of the Terran 1 rocket will need to be assessed with data from the flight. Was it a close call, or was the structure genuinely robust? This information will likely help determine how much of Terran R is produced through 3D printed technology. Beetles are champions at surviving in extremely dry environments. In part, this property is due to their ability to suck water from the air with their rear ends. A new collaborative study by researchers from the University of Copenhagen and the University of Edinburgh explains just how. Beyond helping to explain how beetles thrive in environments where few other animals can survive, the knowledge could eventually be used for more targeted and delicate control of global pests such as the grain weevil and red flower beetle. Insect pests eat their way through thousands of tons of food around the world every year. Food security in developing nations is particularly affected by animal species like the grain weevil and red flower beetle, which have specialized in surviving in extremely dry environments. Branner is included. For thousands of years in a new study, researchers at the University of Copenhagen's Department of Biology investigated the molecular and physiological processes underlying the ability of beetles to survive their entire lives without drinking any liquid water whatsoever. One of the secrets of this characteristic is found in their rear ends. Indeed, beetles can open their rectums and take up water from moist air and convert it into fluid, which they can then absorb into their bodies. This novel approach to consuming water has been known for more than a century within scientific circles around the world, but never fully clarified until now. We have shed new light on the molecular mechanisms that allow beetles to absorb water rectally. Insects are particularly sensitive to changes in their water balance. As such, this knowledge can be used to develop more targeted methods to combat beetle species which destroy our food production without killing other animals or harming humans and nature, says Associate Professor Kenneth Mellon-Hallberg of the Department of Biology, who led the research. Here, the researchers identified a gene that is expressed 60 times more in the beetle's rectum compared to the rest of the animal, which is higher than any other gene they found. This led them to a unique group of cells known as leptophragmata cells. Upon closer inspection, they could see that these cells play a crucial role when the beetle absorbs water through its rear end. Leptophragmata cells are tiny cells situated like windows between the beetle's kidneys and the insect circulatory system, or blood. As the beetle's kidneys encircle its hindgut, the leptophragmata cells function by pumping salts into the kidneys so that they are able to harvest water from moist air through their rectums and from here into their bodies. The gene we have discovered is essential to this process, which is new knowledge for us, explains Kenneth Mellon-Hallberg. Besides being able to suck water out of the air, beetles are also extremely effective at extracting liquid from food. Even dry grain, which may consist of 1-2% water, can contribute to a beetle's fluid balance. A beetle can go through an entire life cycle without drinking liquid water. This is because of their modified rectum and closely applied kidneys, which together make a multi-organ system that is highly specialized in extracting water from the food that they eat and from the air around them. In fact, it happens so effectively that the stool samples we have examined were completely dry and without any trace of water, explains Kenneth Mellon-Hallberg. As the beetle's kidneys encircle its hindgut, the leptophragmata cells function by pumping salts into the kidneys so that they are able to harvest water from moist air through their rectums and from here into their bodies. 25% global food production is lost over the past 500 million years. Beetles have successfully spread across the planet. Today, 1 in 5 animal species on Earth is a beetle. Unfortunately, beetles are also among the pests that have a devastating impact on our food security. The red flower beetle, grain weevil, confused flower beetle, Colorado potato beetle, and other types of beetles make their way into up to 25% of the global food supply every year. We use approximately $100 billion in pesticides worldwide every year to keep insects out of our food. However, traditional pesticides harm other living organisms and destroy the environment. Therefore, according to Kenneth Mellon-Hallberg, it is important to develop more specific and eco-friendly insecticides, which only targets insect pests while leaving more beneficial insects, such as bees, alone. This is where a new and better understanding understanding of beetles' anatomy and physiology could become key. Now we understand exactly which genes, cells and molecules are at play in the beetle when it absorbs water in its rectum. This means that we suddenly have a grip on how to disrupt these very efficient processes by, for example, developing insecticides that target this function and in doing so, kill the beetle, says Kenneth Melland Halberg, who adds, there is 20 times as much insect biomass on Earth than that of humans. They play key roles in most food webs, and have a huge impact on virtually all ecosystems and on human health. So, we need to understand them better, concludes the researcher. A pilot from another airline helped land a Southwest Airlines flight that left early Wednesday from Las Vegas after its captain became incapacitated and required medical attention, according to the airline and radio traffic data, in an episode that surprised some passengers who had no clue a pilot had fallen ill. Southwest Flight 6013 had taken off just after 6:30 a.m. bound for Columbus, Ohio, according to the flight tracking site FlightAware. While it was airborne, one of its pilots needed medical attention, a spokesperson for the airline said, without giving details about the health issue. In radio traffic archived by the website LiveATC, a person says the captain had started to feel stomach pain and then fainted or became incapacitated around 5 minutes later. The person says the captain came back around 60 seconds later and was being looked after in the back of the plane. We need to get him on an ambulance immediately, the person says. Las Vegas resident Diane McGlinchey, who was on the flight with her husband, said Thursday that she didn't notice any panic when crew members initially went on the plane's public announcement system to ask whether medical personnel were on board. A passenger sitting up front, who said she was a nurse put on her call light to help, McGlinchey said. She said she and her husband had been at the back of the plane and didn't notice it was the pilot who needed aid, but she said they knew the ill person was with the nurse in her row. The crew calmly just would give us an update saying we're going to go back to Las Vegas, we have a medical emergency on board, McGlinchey said. Meanwhile, a credentialed pilot from another airline, who was on board as a passenger, entered the flight deck and assisted with radio communication as the second Southwest pilot flew the aircraft. We greatly appreciate their support and assistance, the spokesperson said of the pilot, who stepped in. According to FlightAware, the plane returned to Las Vegas Harry Reid International Airport at about 7:50 a.m. A Southwest spokesperson said the plane landed safely and an alternate crew took over, operating the flight to Columbus. EMS and fire officials were already waiting at the tarmac. Argentine goalkeeper Leandro Requena scored one of the most outrageous goals you are ever likely to see during his Cobresal side's 3-1 win over Colo Colo in Chile's top soccer league. With his team already leading 2-0 in the 77th minute, Requena took what initially looked like a fairly innocuous goal kick. However, with Colo Colo goalkeeper Brian Cortés well outside of his penalty area, the ball bounced over his head and towards the goal. To add to his embarrassment, Cortés stumbled as he tried in vain to chase the ball as it crossed the line. According to TNT Sports Chile, the goal was scored from a distance of 101 meters which, if ratified by Guinness World Records, would break the record for the longest range goal in history. The current record is 96.01 meters, set by Tom King in 2021 during a match between Newport County and Cheltenham Town in England's 4th tier. I asked Juan Silva, the club's manager, if the request for the record application was really going to be made, and he told me, obviously yes. Requena said, Indonesia has begun construction of its new capital city of Nusantara, replacing Jakarta, in East Borneo, a jungle rich in natural resources and known for its orangutan population. Environmentalists and indigenous groups have criticized the nearly $33 project, saying the project has many economic and ecological ramifications, while exposing residents to endemic diseases like malaria. Officials say the new capital plans include a futuristic green city that uses renewable energy resources, smart waste management, and environmentally friendly buildings, and aims to be carbon neutral by 2045. However, critics say the project may lead to substantial rainforest deforestation, threaten endangered species habitats, put indigenous people's homes at risk, and more. The project was sparked by Jakarta's overpopulation, infrastructure problems, and chronic flooding. Home to 10 million people, Jakarta is quickly sinking into the Java Sea, and parts of the city could be entirely submerged by 2050. A giant whale sank a sailing cruise boat in the Pacific Ocean before the group was rescued at the end of an ordeal that could have come out of a novel. Rick Rodriguez of Tavernier, Florida, and 3 friends spent 10 hours on a lifeboat and dinghy after a whale sank the cruise 44 FT sailboat Rain Dancer, the Washington Post reported on Monday. The group had planned a 3-week sailing trip from the Galapagos Islands to French Polynesia, about 3,500 miles away in the South Pacific. But on 13 March, only 13 days into the crossing, disaster struck. At about 1:30 p.m., Rodriguez was enjoying a vegetarian pizza for lunch with the others when he heard a loud noise. The second pizza had just come out of the oven, and I was dipping a slice into some ranch dressing, Rodriguez said to the Post during an interview over a satellite phone. The back half of the boat lifted violently upward and to starboard. Other members of the crew were thrown by the large impact, but each saw from different angles that a whale had smashed into the boat. I saw a massive whale off the port aft side with its side fin up in the air, an analyst said. 5 seconds after the whale's collision, an alarm sounded, warning that the boat was filling with water. Rodriguez said the crew members, who each have experience boating, quickly sprang into action. Rodriguez placed a mayday call on a VHF radio and dispatched the emergency position indicating radio beacon, a distress signal that is connected to a worldwide rescue network. The Peruvian Coast Guard later picked up Rodriguez's distress beacon and notified a U.S. Coast Guard station in California that oversees American ships in the Pacific Ocean. While salt water spilled into the vessel, others in the boat gathered food, emergency equipment, and other gear, as well as fresh water. The crew launched their lifeboat and a dinghy. They had grabbed their safety supplies but didn't have enough time to get their passports. On the lifeboat, the group had sufficient water for about a week. The crew also had a device that catches rainwater as well as food for 3 weeks. Now stranded, Rodriguez and the crew had a phone, satellite Wi-Fi hotspot, and an external battery that were all minimally charged. Rodriguez first messaged his friend and fellow sailor Tommy Joyce about the situation. Joyce was sailing the same route as Rodriguez, about 180 miles behind. Tommy, this is no joke, Rodriguez typed. We hit a whale and the ship went down. Rodriguez sent a similar message to his brother, Roger, adding, tell Mom it's going to be okay. Rodriguez then asked his brother to send a message to Joyce on WhatsApp because he checked the social messaging app more frequently. After turning off the Wi-Fi hotspot for 2 hours to save battery power, Rodriguez received a reassuring message from Joyce. We got you, bud. Hours later, Rodriguez and his crew joined the Rolling Stones, a 45 FT boat captained by Jeff Stone. Stone had received one of Rodriguez's mayday calls from a friend and coordinated a rescue of Rodriguez's group with Joyce and the Peruvian officials. The crew should land in French Polynesia on Wednesday. Rodriguez told the Post he is grateful to be safely on board the Rolling Stones, but misses the Rain Dancer, a boat he was living on and had retrofitted for the trip. I feel very lucky and grateful that we were rescued so quickly, said Rodriguez. What does a musician with 5 Grammy Awards and 2 World Music Awards need to round off her list of achievements? A high-tech Swiss train named after her, of course. The new Golden Pass Express train, which runs from Montreux on Lake Geneva to Interlaken in central Switzerland, has been named Shania Train as a tribute to Canadian country music star Shania Twain. Twain has lived by Lake Geneva for 10 years, and a spokesperson for the Montreux-Oberland-Benoit Railway said in a press statement, the Canadian singer is the godmother of the Shania Train. Twain spoke of her honor on Twitter after she attended the inauguration ceremony in December, tweeting, all aboard the Shania Train to Twain Town. The new train, the first non-stop service on the route, has had to overcome some hefty obstacles. First, the platforms at each station are at different heights, making getting on and off potentially hazardous. But now, thanks to trucks beneath each carriage, the new train's body can adjust to the platform height by moving up or down 200 millimeters, nearly 8 inches. The engineer's other big challenge was finding a way to allow the train to run along the 2 different track gauges on the route. The solution, wheels that can be adjusted to different widths while the train is on the move. So where once passengers on the route had to change trains twice, they can now enjoy their 3-hour journey across the Swiss Alps undisturbed. The new train follows the Golden Pass trade route, which has existed since the Middle Ages, starting by tracking the shores of Lake Geneva before entering the Hongrin Valley, famous for its dairy cows, cheese and chocolate. It terminates in the resort town of Interlaken. At present, the service runs once a day in either direction, but from June 11, it will increase to 4 daily return trips. Badgers burrowing below railway tracks have wreaked havoc on train services in the Netherlands, causing cancellations and line closures. Trains in the north and south of the country have been affected, with some services halted for at least a week. The line between Den Bosch and Boxtel in the south was closed on Tuesday after the mammals dug under the tracks. Officials said it was not clear how long the problem would continue as badgers were a protected species. John Wappen, CEO of ProRail, the company that maintains the Dutch rail network, said it was the second time in a week that services had been stopped because of badger activity. He said the problem could take a significant amount of time to tackle as train operators needed permission to move the animals or disturb their habitat. An inspection in recent days showed the badgers had been digging much more actively, which had direct consequences for the safety of the tracks. ProRail said the digging meant tracks could subside, putting the safety of rail traffic at risk. It added, the Den Bosch-Boxtel-Eindhoven route is an important connection linking the north and south, and passenger and freight trains on the line will be affected until at least next Tuesday. Earlier this month in the north, badgers also burrowed below the railway tracks near Molkwerum in the Friesland province, causing services on one line to be suspended until next month. Railway workers are planning to build a sandy hillock there where the badgers can dig their homes. Mr. Wappen said ProRail were in emergency talks with the infrastructure ministry following the shutdowns. Living together with with the badger is quite a puzzle for ProRail. The company says on its website, Mr. Pickles, a critically endangered species of tortoise at the Houston Zoo, finally became a father at the age of 90. He and his partner, Mrs. Pickles, welcomed 3 tortoise hatchlings, dill, gherkin and jalapeno. 3 gifts we received on Louis Braille's birthday. The 215th birthday of Monsieur Louis Braille was observed throughout the country on 4th January. This time our friends in the national capital got their electricity bills in Braille. 2 electricity suppliers of New Delhi introduced this new scheme for their visually impaired subscribers on Louis Braille's birthday. It reminds me of the old saying, Delhi is very far. We, the visually impaired people of states like West Bengal, live too far away from the king, so, the king's munificence seldom reaches us. Nowadays, we see Braille being used in many situations. Braille dummy ballots are kept in all polling booths during the parliamentary and assembly elections. A visually impaired voter, of course, if he knows Braille, can read the list of candidates with serial numbers belonging to different political parties. The voting buttons on EVM machines are marked with Braille labels containing the serial numbers. The Braille reading voter can cast his own vote on an EVM. We also come across Braille labels around lifts, toilets, etc. In many public buildings, berths are labeled in Braille in some trains. We see Braille signage in railway stations and airports. Akasa Air, the youngest air service company of the country, brought out its safety manual in Braille on Louis Braille's birth anniversary. Braille has been our basic system of reading and writing. The word Braille brings to mind the words Braille books. Well, now we have electricity bills in Braille and some Braille labels. Some of us have cast our franchise independently using Braille. But what about education and books? Not many textbooks at school level are printed in Braille, let alone the possibility of Braille books for colleges and universities. How many visually impaired persons get the opportunity for learning Braille? The number of genuine blind schools in India will be around 1,000. In my state, West Bengal, my fingers are enough to count the number of such schools. Please do not count small organizations providing some education to some visually impaired students for just a few days. Most teachers in these schools do not know Braille. Most blind schools in West Bengal do not have more than 2 or 3 permanent teachers. Braille is not a priority in schemes classified in the name of Samagrik Shiksha or inclusive education. Students hearing something in the classroom is considered education in these schemes. If the visually impaired student is fortunate, he may expect recorded material on some fancy MP3 player. We mean reading and writing by basic education. Learning by listening may compensate for reading to some extent, but does it in any way make up for writing? These students hardly learn spelling and punctuation, and they do not learn how to logically organize their ideas in paragraphs. How many visually impaired persons know Braille? We do not have any statistical record on it. However, we can assume from the number of blind schools that this number may not exceed 10% of the total visually impaired population. It leads us to the next question. How many persons are blind in the country? According to a report in the Hindustan Times of March 27, 2017, it is 12 million in India and 39 million in the world. That means, 1/3 of the blind people in the world are Indians. Here persons who cannot count fingers from a distance of 6 meters are counted as blind. According to this report, the government of India has evolved an excellent plan to reduce the number of blind persons in the country. SMT. Pramila Gupta, the Deputy Director General of National Programme for Control of Blindness, told the reporter that the government has defined blindness in a new way. A person who cannot count fingers from a distance of 3 meters will be considered as blind. It would bring down the number of blind people in the country from 12 million to 4 million at one stroke. This distance is 6 meters in the definition of blindness by the World Health Organization. According to Section 2B of the erstwhile Persons with Disabilities, Equal Opportunities, Protection of Rights, and Full Participation Act, 1995, blindness refers to a condition where a person suffers from any of the following conditions, namely 1. Total absence of sight, or 2. Visual acuity not exceeding 6/60 or 20/200 Snellen in the better eye with correcting lenses, or 3. Limitation of the field of vision subtending an angle of 20 degrees or worse. The new law, the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, 2016 has newly defined blindness and low vision in item 1B in its attached schedule. Blindness means a condition where a person has any of the following conditions, after best correction. 1. Total absence of sight, or 2. Visual acuity less than 3/60 or less than 10/200 Snellen in the better eye with best possible correction, or 3. Limitation of the field of vision subtending an angle of less than 10 degrees. B. Low vision means a condition where a person has any of the following conditions, namely 1. Visual acuity not exceeding 6/18 or less than 20/60 up to 3/60 or up to 10/200 Snellen in the better eye with best possible corrections, or 2. Limitation of the field of vision subtending an angle of less than 40 degrees up to 10 degrees. The consequences of the new definition are not yet fully evident. We have to wait for the next census report. I would invite your attention to another news item in the Times of India of January 1, 2023. The Parliamentary Consultative Committee attached to the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has requested the Ministry to review its pension for for Disabled Persons. The members of the committee expressed deep concern over the farcical grant of meager assistance of Rs. 300 and requested the government to increase it in the current state of inflation. The Ministry of Rural Development provides this assistance of Rs. 300 under the Indira Gandhi National Disability Pension Scheme for those in the below poverty line category in the age group of 17-79 years. The quantum of assistance is Rs. 500 for those above 80. In response to the request for increase by the Parliamentary Committee, the Ministry of Rural Development said that they do not have any plan for increasing this assistance. However, they would encourage state governments to raise the amount of assistance. There is no report as to how the states would be encouraged. The name and amount of disability pension vary from state to state. Disabled persons get disability pension of Rs. 1,000 under the scheme of Mavik Parta in West Bengal. This amount is Rs. 3,000 in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It ranges from Rs. 2,200 to Rs. 3,800 in Pondicherry. It is a paltry sum of Rs. 100 in Mizoram and Rs. 200 in Chhattisgarh. Budgetary allocation for the Department of Persons with Disability has actually decreased in recent years. Another budget is close at hand. Will there be any change this time? I dare not hope so. People of other backward sections at least get some promises because they have some impact on votes. We are not even worth some promises. Amio Biswas. 4. Breaking Stereotypes at India's first inclusive fest for persons with disabilities by Shruti Pushkar. Shruti Pushkar. The year 2023 couldn't have opened on a better note, or shall I say, inclusive note. India witnessed its first ever large-scale inclusive festival for persons with disabilities in Goa from January 6 to 8. Purple Fest was a unique initiative of the state government, supported by the Office of State Commissioner of Persons with Disabilities and collaborating NGO from across the country. Over 5,000 delegates witnessed this novel amalgamation of different stakeholders including persons with disabilities, parents, academicians, rehabilitation professionals, disability rights advocates, government officials, employers, entrepreneurs, trainers, technology experts, students, NGO representatives, media and civil society members. Fortunate to be in the middle of all action, I was in awe of the organizing and ground-level teams who worked tirelessly to curate an experience that was distinctively discerning. The 3-day convention had parallel events and activities running in and around the Entertainment Society of Goa in Panaji, attracting curious crowds, exhibits of products, services and solutions, experience zones, discussions around inclusive education, employment, sports and policy, interactions with achievers and change makers, music, games, dance, cruise ride, bird walk, movie screenings, marathon, car rally, sporting events, and more. It was an action-packed jamboree and all done with the prime objective of including and sensitizing the society towards the varied needs, solutions, issues and aspirations of persons with disabilities. According to Census 2011, Goa features in the list of states with low percentage of disabled population of around 32,000, but recent reports indicate a sharp rise in the overall number of disabled persons in the last few years, and the state social welfare department is determined to create awareness as well as make infrastructure and services accessible to all. Purple Fest is one such step in this direction. Now that I have set the context, let me tell you why this event matters. Foremost, persons with disabilities were seen live in action, belying and breaking stereotypes. Age-old images fixated in the minds of people were challenged. All events and activities had inclusion interwoven into them, true to the spirit of leaving no one behind. Physical spaces were made accessible with ramps, elevators, braille signage, QR-powered navigation app, and so on, ensuring access for every attendee. There was audio description, sign language interpretation, tactile signing, captions and more. It was all done in a precise and yet matter-of-fact manner, emphasizing, to the excluding majority, that it doesn't take too much, only a mindset shift towards accepting the other. This was evident from the experiences shared by some people who participated in a car rally where persons with blindness were teamed up with sighted drivers for a 35 km ride. The visually impaired person used a braille map to help the sighted driver navigate his or her way through. During the rally, the conversations and interdependence experienced by both parties resulted in building friendships and potential long-term relationships between the sighted and visually impaired communities. Apprehensions gave way to curiosity, finally translating into a change in perception. The life cycle of any person, including those with disability, involves parenting, education, skilling, employment, healthcare and social welfare. The various exhibits demonstrated how persons with disability and their surrounding community could ensure independent activities of daily living as well as equal access to all services and facilities. There were grassroots and technological innovations on display, making possible for a person with disability to walk, sit, eat, read, write, watch, cook and play independently or with little help. Assistive aids and devices made it possible for them to conduct science experiments, solve math equations, withdraw cash from an ATM, access smart appliances, and even drive on their own. I could go on because there were many hits at the Purple Fest, the biggest one being the representation of Purple ambassadors for each of the 21 types of disabilities listed in the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. It was a historic moment captured by crowds, cameras and crews, where so many different disabilities were seen walking the talk. The known dailies and social media platforms were abuzz with stories from the Purple Fest. The inclusion advocate in me was both rooting and scouting for in-depth coverage of this magical manifestation of ability, but I was disappointed with the surface-level reporting focused essentially on already famous government officials, disabled achievers, and stalwarts in respective domains. What was missing from the media discourse were the raw, heart-wrenching accounts of ordinary, average persons with disability who managed to overcome challenges in personal and professional spaces. The media missed the chance to recount the stories of Purple ambassadors of 21 disabilities, especially the lesser understood ones like hemophilia, sickle cell disease, blood disorder, and other invisible disabilities. 58-year-old Umesh Salaga from Pune touched many hearts while recapitulating the struggles of a 10-year-old who lost both his parents, forced to earn and study simultaneously, thankfully with some help from his landlady and primary school teacher, only to be later shocked by the death of his young wife, leading to a life with Parkinson's disease. Manju Sharma, representing chronic neurological disability, shared the sudden turn of events in her life and the gradual journey of acceptance. A jet-setting air hostess had to reset and reorient to a life with acquired neurological conditions that aren't easily comprehended. She is now gainfully employed in Nayamandi, Jharkhand. Persons with mental illness and learning disability as well as deaf people shared their excruciating trauma of being excluded at various stages in life by a society that scores rather low on empathy. Walking around the venue, having a cup of coffee, listening to the panel discussions, interacting with the 21 representatives, looking at simple solutions and performances, most people experienced innumerable eureka moments. Did the show of strength and glimpse of an equitable coexistence fail to stir up the media's sensibility and responsibility towards its citizens? The media can dramatically transform the world of persons with disabilities, and this series can help bring forth issues that the media must champion to create a truly inclusive and accessible India. Shruti Pushkar, a former journalist, now works as director, Enable India, where she heads North India operations as well as media and communications outreach. 5. Discovering inner peace and balance with Vipassana meditation. Finding peace and harmony in our lives is a universal desire. Everyone experiences agitation, stress, boredom, and irritation at some point in their lives. When we suffer from these feelings, we often spread them to others, affecting our relationships with family, friends, or colleagues. I used to believe I was different, but this was due to low self-awareness and acceptance. A recent experience with Vipassana meditation helped me discover the path to a peaceful and productive life. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Buddha. To understand how we typically deal with difficult situations and where we get stuck, we daydream and create scenarios about unfulfilled desires, unpleasant experiences, and cravings. These thoughts negatively impact our focus, productivity, decision-making ability, and quality of life. We suppress our feelings or divert our focus, which only worsens the situation, impacting our health. After struggling, we accept the situation but feel pain every time the thoughts resurface. We read philosophical, motivational, and spiritual content to find refuge, but it only intellectualizes the situation, not making an impact. It is about finding balance within, irrespective of external factors, which is challenging. Vipassana meditation is an ancient, proven, and practical technique that helps discover inner balance. Happiness is not something ready-made, it comes from your own actions. Dalai Lama. Vipassana meditation is the technique of self-observation, observing the reality within, not as it appears to be. The technique is taught in a 10-day residential course. We harm ourselves and others by reacting in ways that are not helpful. By practicing Vipassana, the habit of reacting falls away, enabling us to take positive and creative actions from a clearer and balanced mind. Understanding the truth, it is necessary to know ourselves experientially, not just intellectually or emotionally, to stop creating negativity and eradicate old ones gradually. Participants experience 3 stages in this guided meditation course: quieting the mind, developing mastery over the mind, and purifying the mind of defilements. The first stage requires one to abstain from any action that disturbs others' peace and harmony. One undertakes not to kill, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to tell lies, and not to use intoxicants. One must maintain noble silence and refrain from talking or touching physically. A dedicated volunteer assists those with blindness. Cell phones need to be deposited throughout the course duration. Abstaining from such actions allows allows the mind to quiet down to go deeper. The next stage involves developing mastery over the wild mind by training it to remain focused on the breath. One tries to observe natural respiration as it comes in and goes out. The third step focuses on purifying the mind of defilements by developing insight into one's nature. This is vipassana, experiencing one's reality by observing the ever-changing mind-matter phenomenon perceivable as sensations. Self-purification by self-observation. Vipassana meditation is for everyone, not just for those in distress. It can strengthen the focus on the present, bring clarity of thought, enhance decision-making ability, attain mental balance, and increase productivity. The ultimate aim is to attain a deeper understanding of oneself, irrespective of religion, beliefs, or background. My batch included corporate and government employees, doctors, yoga instructors, entrepreneurs, leaders, homemakers, drug addicts, and students. Everyone can benefit from Vipassana meditation. Suffering is an unavoidable part of life that affects us all, but fortunately, there is a remedy that is accessible to everyone. Vipassana meditation is a universal path that can help us gain control over our minds and develop insight into our own nature. Through regular practice, we can free ourselves from the mental impurities that cause us so much misery. By penetrating past the superficial truths of the external world, we can arrive at the ultimate truth of the nature of our minds and bodies. This truth is beyond time and space, and it offers liberation from the defilements, impurities, and suffering that afflict us. For me personally, attending Vipassana courses has helped me gain clarity on life questions that would otherwise have kept me confused for months. I have been able to release myself from unnecessary emotions and unpleasant feelings, and I have learned how to be more self-aware and focused on the present moment. It's important to note that reading or discussing Vipassana is not enough to truly understand its benefits. It's only through direct experience that one can truly appreciate its transformative power. If you're interested in learning more about Vipassana, please visit www.dhamma.org for details on course schedules, locations, and registrations. You may also request for assistance during the course in the registration form. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Buddha Vishal Kumar Jain is passionate about Vipassana meditation, is a trained mountaineer and a musician. He holds an MBA from IIM Lucknow and currently works at Shell as a global HR consultant, having previously worked with Tata Motors in Mumbai. He is a person with blindness and active in evangelizing abilities of people with disabilities. 6. A long way, from moving around only in the big vehicle with the red siren, to now zipping around on my new set of wheels, from being fed via a thin pipe tucked to the tummy, to now ordering and cooking anything, to the taste bud that appeals. I have come a long way. From others lifting me off the bed and putting me to my wheels and back, to now being able to go for long drives on life's highway, from taking each day as it came, thanks to the braveness of the body plight, to now being able to plan for something months away. I have come a long way. From a desperation to work, just to stay engaged, to now being able to work on anything I really wanted to pursue, from joining a group of a few differently abled just to get a different perspective, to now ardently working in the same space to do the best I can do. I have come a long way. From drawing, just to distract myself from the pain, to now being able to organize shows for others with a similar plight but better flair than mine, from assuming that life's luster was a thing of the past, to now being able to help myself and others find their innate shine. I have come a long way. From trying to beat the blue about many a health issue, to now talking to others about looking at the positives and not into the past and into the why. From thinking that my wings were snipped with no further flight, to now being able to spread the same wings to go for the sky. I have come a long way. I know that the journey is still not complete, and I still have a long way to go, but for now, I am happy with where I am, so far from where I was 12 years ago! PTS Ravani. Though her body is limited by spinal cord injury, her hands give her the freedom to dabble in painting and poetry. She works for Infosys. 7. In memoriam, Richard Douglas Fosbury. Growing up in Oregon, Fosbury was a track and field athlete at Medford High School, but was in danger of being cut from the team because he couldn't clear the minimum jump height, 5 feet. The dominant technique in that era, the straddle technique, was, Wikipedia says, a complex motion where an athlete went over the high jump bar facing down and lifted his legs individually over the bar. Fosbury just couldn't do it, so he began to experiment with other ways of accomplishing the high jump. I knew I had to change my body position, he said later, and that's what started first the revolution, and over the next 2 years, the evolution. The rules of the high jump simply require that competitors leap from one foot after a running start. They don't say anything about how the athlete gets over the bar. He or she just has to do it without knocking it down. Straddle technique. Charles Dumas, USA, was the first high jumper to clear 7 feet with the straddle technique in 1956. Before Dumas did it, clearing 7 feet was considered impossible. Most high jumpers used a technique called the straddle, which involved jumping forward and then kicking the lead leg over the bar, followed by the rest of the body. In contrast, the Fosbury flop involves jumping backwards and arching the back over the bar, with the head and shoulders going over first, followed by the rest of the body. This technique was first used by American athlete Dick Fosbury in the 1968 Summer Olympics, where he won the gold medal with a record-breaking jump of 2.24 meters. The Fosbury flop allows the athlete to clear the bar with the least amount of energy and is now the most commonly used technique in high jump. The technique relies on the athlete's ability to control their body's center of mass, shifting it from the head to the feet during the jump. It also allows for greater clearance of the bar, since the athlete can clear the bar with their back, which has a larger surface area than the legs used in the straddle technique. Fosbury's coach wasn't initially pleased by his efforts. He went over the bar face up, kicking up his legs at the last second to clear. That meant he landed on his back, but Fosbury was aided by a stroke of luck. Around that time, high jump pits filled with sawdust were being replaced by safer foam rubber cushions piled several feet thick. The coach stopped objecting to the technique when Fosbury, then a junior, cleared 6:53 in a school record. The next year he broke 6:55 in. Still, sports reporters and critics weren't impressed, calling it an airborne seizure. Even the local Medford Mail Tribune newspaper was dismissive, captioning a photo in 1964, Fosbury flops over bar, adding in the caption, like a fish flopping in a boat. The name stuck. The technique became known as the Fosbury flop. In this technique, the athlete runs towards the bar and takes off from one foot, then arches their back and clears the bar with their body facing upwards, rather than face down as in older techniques. The goal of the takeoff is to generate enough height and momentum to clear the bar. The height that the athlete achieves is determined by their speed, angle of takeoff, and technique. The athlete must also clear the bar without knocking it off, or they will receive a foul and the jump will not count. Then Fosbury won gold with the technique at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, clearing 2.24 m, 7 ft, 4-1/4 in, which remains his personal best. That high-profile win spread the Fosbury flop worldwide. At the next Olympics, Munich, 1972, 28 of the 40 high jump competitors used the Fosbury flop, and it grew from there. A lot of people questioned it at first, he said in 1981, when he was inducted into the USA Track and Field Hall of Fame. But eventually they realized that was the easiest way to high jump. Now, that's the only way you see anyone high jump. I just wonder what would have happened if I had quit before 1968. He was elected to the US Olympic Hall of Fame in 1992. Fosbury didn't attend the 1972 Olympics. He was busy completing his degree in civil engineering at Oregon State University, graduating in 1972. After a successful career in that field in Idaho, he tried politics, but lost his 2014 bid for a seat in the Idaho House of Representatives. In 2019, he was elected as commissioner in his county. In 2008, he had been diagnosed with stage 1 lymphoma. Surgery and chemo cleared it up. In 2009, with fellow Olympians Gary Hall and Ann Cribbs, Fosbury was a founder of World Fit, a non-profit that promotes youth fitness programs and Olympic ideals. In early 2023, his cancer returned. Richard Douglas Fosbury died from it recently on March 12, a few days after his 76th birthday. If ever you could call anyone a game changer, Fosbury perfectly suits that title. His record was broken only by Javier Sotomayor of Cuba, who jumped 2.45 meters, 8 feet 0.46 inches, on July 27, 1993, in Salamanca, Spain. Justin 8. Cinquain poetry is easy and fun for children and adults alike. With just 11 words and 5 short lines, a cinquain is compact and loaded with descriptive words. Cinquain, pronounced cinquain, is an unrhymed poem consisting of 5 lines arranged in a special way. Planet, graceful, ringed, spinning, whirling, twirling, dances with neighbor Jupiter, Saturn. The word cinquain comes from the Latin root for 5. Notice that the cinquain has 5 lines that follow this sequence. Line A, 1 vague or general one-word subject or topic. Line B, 2 vivid adjectives that describe the topic. Line C, 3 interesting action verbs that fit the topic. Line D, 4-word phrase that captures feeling about the topic. Line E, a very specific term that explains line A. Here's another example from me and many others. Dots, bumpy, tiny feeling, reading, meaning literacy for the blind Braille. Justin, entertainment, glamorous, romantic, singing, dancing, acting stage for the talented movie. Rani, machine, excellent, fast, typing, browsing, scanning, cannot live without that, computer hammer, omnipresent, bless, invisible, creating, operating, destroying, difficult to reach him, God, hammer, pet, loyal, friendly, snipping, licking, barking, always plays with me. Dog Sachin Porwal, sport, popular, outdoor, batting, bowling, fielding, match between two teams, cricket Sanjeev virus, contagious, dangerous, killing, spreading, mutating, vaccine is the answer, COVID-19 Suman Gayan, legend maker, devoted, well-wisher, loving, caring, juggling, the most beautiful person, Mom Suman Cubery, thick crust, tasty, enjoyable, eating, sharing, caring, you can try it, pizza, pramit, flower, red, yellow, smelling, decorating, enjoying, Nehru's most favorite flower, rose rangini, bird, beautiful, colorful, dancing, swaying, twirling, national bird of India, peacock divika, energy, hot, bright, lightning, generating, life-giving, can't live without it, sun say cat, life, pure, clean, drinking, washing, cleaning, can't survive without it, water push later, purse, feminine, valuable, carrying, protecting, spending, happiness to the shopper, money pramit, freedom fighter, patriotic, intelligent, sacrificing, loving, contributing, father of the nation and high, animal, smooth, white, drinking, sleeping, jumping, likes to catch mouse cat Tejaswini, family, lenient, liberal, loving, caring, understanding, God by my side, mother Priyanka, life, clean, cool, living, giving, surviving, most important for all, water, dessert, delicious, sweet, baking, decorating, eating cut with the knife cake, fruit, juicy, yellow, biting, chewing, eating, king of all fruits, mango, vehicle, big, red, boarding, traveling, sightseeing, drives through the town, bus matriarch, love, care, eating, joking, playing, always there for me grandmother Justin, 9. A frightening earthquake. The recent earthquakes in Turkey, Syria, not to mention, ones in North India made me recall terrible tragedies of earlier times. In 1755, Lisbon was hit with a massive earthquake. According to estimates, there were tremors claiming it was as strong as a 9.1 on the Richter scale. Shocks from the earthquake were felt as far away as Ireland, Finland and Sweden. 156 miles from Lisbon, as the bird flies, in Huelva, Spain, castles crumbled. But the earthquake was only the first of a three-punch combo. The residents of Lisbon rushed out of their houses and toward the massive Tagus River that Lisbon sits on, their thoughts being that there were no buildings there to fall on their heads. When they reached the Tagus River, they were greeted by a sight too outlandish to believe. The river was gone, all of the water had receded. Today we know this is a clear sign of an impending tsunami. The people of Lisbon hadn't a clue. The waters poured back into Lisbon with interest. The 30-foot height tsunami swept away the people of the city, taking sanctuary on the riverbank, and smashed through their city. More tsunami waves followed. As the waters finally receded, Lisbon was devastated from the second punch, the tsunami. They had no idea a third was coming. The earthquake had struck on November 1, All Saints' Day. Every year on November 1, many Roman Catholics and other Christians around the world observe All Saints' Day, which honors all saints of the church deemed to have attained heaven. All over the city candles were lit for the religious holiday. The earthquake shook these lit candles loose, and fires sprung up all across the city. Fed by the winds that come off the Tagus River, these fires soon combined into one super fire that engulfed the city. Even the recent tsunami did little to dampen its rampage. The smoke was so thick, people almost 100 ft away from the fire died of asphyxiation. In an era when people believed natural disasters were a message from God, this seemed like God's absolute wrath. After all, why else would God send such disasters on a holy day? Internet. 10. MJ News Janmar 2023 on Louis Braille Day, January 4, 2023, Mitra Jyothi, founder and managing trustee, MS Madhu Singhal, accompanied by several students, visited the Karnataka branch of the National Federation of the Blind, NFB, to attend a special function. The event was attended by numerous dignitaries, including visually impaired individuals from government and public sectors. During the ceremony, NFB honored MS Singhal as the most senior member of the organization. Additionally, a quiz competition was organized, and several Mitra Jyothi students participated. Shilpa was part of a group that earned the second prize. The event commenced at 10:30 a.m. and continued until the evening, generating excellent awareness about the cause in society. On January 28, 2023, Mitra Jyothi organized a focus group discussion with 10 distinguished visually impaired individuals from various regions of Karnataka. The aim of the meeting was to develop Kannada contractions for Braille. The core committee consisted of individuals who are well versed in the Kannada language, skilled in Braille, and proficient in using technology and software for the visually impaired. Ruta Chakra, a youth-led organization, aims to promote menstrual equity and dignity through action, awareness, and advocacy. On 14th February 2023, the organization donated personal hygiene products to Mitra Jyothi girls for an entire year. Sanjana Dixit founded the organization in 2018 with the vision of ensuring that every menstruator can manage their menstruation with dignity by providing menstrual products to those in need, increasing access to education, and facilitating open conversations about menstruation across all genders. Mitra Jyothi expressed gratitude gratitude to the Dixit family for their unwavering support towards menstrual hygiene. The 8th online Advanced Excel course for visually impaired individuals began on February 27th. We received registrations from 25 individuals from all over the country, and 20 of them attended the course every day from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The course ended on March 10th, and 11 participants successfully passed the exam and received their e-certificates via email. Testing a new navigation app for the visually impaired community. Rachit, a PhD fellow student from IIT Delhi, visited Mitra Jyothi on 7th March for 3 days. He was in the city to test a navigation app developed by him as part of his thesis/dissertation on assistive technology for the visually impaired. Rachit interacted with our computer trainer and students to understand the limitations in the app better. He also downloaded the app on a few mobiles and requested them to use it and give him feedback. Their valuable inputs will help him improve the app and make it more user-friendly. Rachit's hard work and dedication in developing this navigation app will make a significant difference in the lives of visually impaired individuals. Let's continue to work together to develop innovative solutions that improve the lives of the visually impaired. #assistive technology #visually impaired #navigation app #innovation #accessibility #Mitra Jyothi #IIT Delhi. Honoring Women Achievers on International Women's Day. To honor women achievers, Sankara EYE Hospital conducted an event on 8th March 2023, International Women's Day at 4 p.m. at Sankara Auditorium. The event was a platform to inspire, motivate, recognize and celebrate the outstanding contributions made by women to society. Our founder and managing trustee, Madhuji, was felicitated with the Pride of India Women's Achievers plaque and a shawl for her exceptional leadership skills, unwavering dedication, and significant contributions in rehabilitating the visually impaired. She shared her story and took part in a panel discussion with other like-minded individuals, inspiring all to work towards goals with passion and perseverance. We applaud Madhuji and all the other women achievers for their outstanding accomplishments and for paving the way for future generations of women. Let's continue to empower women and celebrate their achievements every day. #disability awareness #International Women's Day #Women Achievers #Sankara EYE Hospital #empowerment #inspiration #Pride of India #Mitra Jyothi. 11. News from Radio Udon. Disability pension is a crucial form of financial support for persons with disabilities who are unable to work and earn a living due to their disability. It is a government-funded program that provides a monthly stipend to eligible individuals with disabilities. The importance of disability pension cannot be overstated, as it helps to alleviate the financial burden faced by persons with disabilities and their families, enabling them to lead a life of dignity. In India, disability pension is provided by the central government and state governments under various schemes. However, the amount and eligibility criteria vary from state to state, leading to disparities and discrimination against persons with disabilities based on their place of residence. This is where the need for uniformity in disability pension across all Indian states arises. Radio Udon, a platform run by and for persons with disabilities, has been advocating for a uniform disability pension of at least Rs. 5,000 per month across all Indian states. This demand is backed by the fact that many persons with disabilities in India are living in poverty and facing multiple forms of discrimination. A uniform disability pension would go a long way in providing them with a basic level of financial support, enabling them to access education, healthcare, and other basic necessities. Apart from the obvious benefits of financial support, disability pension also has several other important benefits. It promotes the inclusion of persons with disabilities in society by ensuring that they have access to basic necessities and can participate in community life. It also reduces the financial burden on families of persons with disabilities, who often have to bear the costs of caregiving and medical expenses. Furthermore, disability pension can be a critical tool for empowering persons with disabilities to lead independent lives. By providing them with a source of income, disability pension can help them access assistive devices, mobility aids, and other tools that enable them to live and work independently. It can also help them access vocational training and other forms of skill development, enabling them to become financially independent in the long run. It is important to note that disability pension is a shared responsibility between the central government and state governments. While some states have taken steps to provide a reasonable amount of disability pension to eligible individuals, others have not. Many organizations working for persons with disabilities have been advocating for an increase in the central government's share in disability pension. Currently, the central government provides a fixed amount of Rs. 300 per month, which is insufficient and does not reflect the cost of living. It is also concerning that some states like Mizoram provide a meager amount of Rs. 100 per month as disability pension, which is unacceptable. Other states like Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra also provide a low amount of disability pension, which does not meet the basic needs of persons with disabilities. In contrast, some states like Telangana, Puducherry, and Haryana are providing a higher amount of disability pension, which is commendable. However, even these states need to increase the pension amount to at least Rs. 5,000 per month, as recommended by organizations like Radio Udon. Disability pension is an important form of financial support that is essential for the inclusion and empowerment of persons with disabilities. A uniform disability pension across all Indian states would go a long way in ensuring that persons with disabilities have access to basic financial support, promoting their inclusion and empowering them to lead independent lives. The government must take urgent steps to ensure that disability pension is provided uniformly across all states and that the minimum amount is set at Rs. 5,000 per month. Radio Udon, a platform run by and for persons with disabilities, has been actively raising the demand for a uniform disability pension of at least Rs. 5,000 per month across all Indian states. They have been advocating for this demand in their shows and wherever they get a platform, including meetings with government officials. In conclusion, it is essential for the central government and state governments to work together to ensure that disability pension is provided uniformly across all states and that the amount is increased to at least Rs. 5,000 per month. This will go a long way in promoting the inclusion and empowerment of persons with disabilities, enabling them to lead a life of dignity and independence. 12. Recipe. Mango Mastani recipe. Ingredients: 2 mango, 2 scoops vanilla ice cream, 1 cup milk, chilled, for assembling, mango, cubes, nuts, tutti frutti, vanilla ice cream. Instructions. Method. Firstly, in a blender take 2 mango. Make sure to use fresh and sweet mangoes, else you may have to add sugar for sweetness. Add 2 scoops vanilla ice cream and 1 cup milk. Blend into a thick milkshake. Keep aside. For assembling, in a tall glass take 2 tablespoon mango cubes. Add 2 tablespoon chopped nuts and 2 tablespoon tutti frutti. Also, add 1 scoop vanilla ice cream. You can alternatively use mango ice cream. Pour in the prepared mango milkshake. Top with 1 scoop vanilla ice cream, nuts, and tutti frutti. Finally, enjoy mango mastani immediately.